Hello there. Well, today we're at the Bowling Green in Pattaya. That's somewhere that's associated with people who are in the autumn years of their life. But that's actually a rather apt setting, because today we're here speaking to a bunch of people who are, well, in those autumn years, but they're actually a little bit perturbed because they feel that they're not getting treated fairly. They are just some of the 500,000 pensioners who've chosen to live outside of the UK to play their final years abroad. Now, joining me is Judith Edmonds, who's part of the committee. Judith, tell us a little bit of the background of why we ended up coming here today.
Because at the Court of Human Rights earlier this year, they decided that pensioners who live abroad in certain countries could not receive parity. In other words, we can't have the increase in our pensions as is paid to the pensioners in the UK and most other countries worldwide.
Okay, so at the moment, so you say most other countries, so if they're part of Europe, they get this increase in their pension, and I believe in America as well. But if you chose to be in Canada, Australia, and of course further afield here in Thailand.
That's correct, and the other country that doesn't get it is if you live in South Africa.
Right, okay. So obviously you feel that this is unjust.
Very unjust. There's no reason that we shouldn't get the same increase as everybody else does.
Okay, and what was the reason that they gave for this, well, discrimination?
We were told it was because there is no reciprocal arrangement, and we've yet to discover exactly what they mean by that.
Right, okay. Well, we'll get to about this meeting in a minute, but I know that today there was a lot of people talking who'd served in the forces, and of course, there was a lot of people who served in the forces here in Thailand with the Death Railway and such like. So surely these people must think, well, wait a minute, I've served my country, I've done my bit, and now I want to retire peacefully in the sun, and they're being discriminated against.
That's correct. We are being discriminated against.
Okay, so, well, what can be done? What was the points raised today at the meeting?
We have decided that we will join the International Consortium of British pensioners who have been fighting for pension parity, and that we will send 1,000 baht, £20 per year per person to help them fight this cause, because together we can afford to have QCs, etc., to help us.
Okay, but it sounds a bit crazy, with the greatest respect, that you're having to pay to get your voice heard for something that surely you're entitled to anyway.
Many of us have written letters to Downing Street, to our former MPs, and even to public dignitaries to try and get them to help our cause so we can have this parity. We haven't been getting anywhere, so we need to try and form a coalition of pensioners to try and get this money.
Okay. So let's just try and put this into perspective. At the moment, the UK government, it's estimated that they're saving £500 million a year by not paying this extra amount to pensioners living abroad, right?
If we lived in England, we would be entitled to free transportation, free medical assistance, free prescriptions, free spectacles. I could go on. By living here, we're paying all that ourselves. We're saving the British government money.
Okay. I mean, you said free transport. What you're referring to is the bus pass.
That's correct.
And the bus pass alone, for the amount of pensioners, the amount that we're talking about, comes to £25 million. That's 25 million that's been saved just in that £1 bus pass that they would give to pensioners if you were staying in the UK. I mean, it just makes you think that the British government would say, great, live away from us. Yes, we'll save this money, but they're not treating you fairly.
They're not treating us fairly. They're also forgetting that some of us have come out here to join our families. Otherwise we wouldn't be able to see them, but we have to have a decent amount of money to live on.
And the way that it works, I mean, I was speaking to one chap and he said, well, he came out here 5 years ago, so effectively his pension got frozen at that point. But if someone came out here 15 years ago, it would have been frozen at what they were receiving 15 years ago. So basically they haven't had any increase in their pension. I'm sorry if I'm going over the same thing again, but just to try and give an example.
Yes, that's correct. There is somebody, I forget which country she lives in, who emigrated 30 years ago, and her pension then was £10 per week, and that's what it is today.
My goodness. Now, I believe the standard pension is about £95, right?
It's more than that per week for a married couple.
Right, okay.
As a married couple, between us, we get approximately £220 per week.
And then that's it, then it's frozen if you come abroad. Now, in addition to that, there's also something that came up today, and which I'm not sure if it's meant to be part of your meeting, but it is part of the whole thing, is about talking your pension as well, which, again, I mean, and this is part of what the British government have said, well, you're no longer contributing to the British economy. I mean, you've worked all your life, you've contributed to the economy all your working life, surely then you should just receive your pension. But they say no, you have to pay tax on your pension,
yes,
which then helps to continue feeding the system that you've been spoon feeding all your working days.
You're allowed just over £9,000 a year tax